Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
The federal government is working towards ramping up food production to cushion the current effect of food shortages in the country. The Minister of State for Agriculture, Mr. Abdullahi Sabi, made the revelation during the unveiling of the 2024 wet season farming report. The report recommends the establishment of a trust fund for farmers and the elimination of multiple taxation on agri-produce.
The National Agricultural Extension and Research License Services was mandated to conduct a survey on the 2024 wet season farming to assess its agricultural performance. The agency is presenting the outcome of the report, which details how much Nigerians have engaged in agriculture and factors affecting the development of food production in the country.
I've always said, before we can have a breakthrough in land production, we must have a breakthrough in cereals. Before we can have a breakthrough, any country that you noted had a breakthrough in livestock production must first of all have the breakthrough in cereals, maize in particular. Yes, followed by legumes like soybean. So we should pay attention to maize. I know Kaduna State is the hub of it. We should pay attention. It has a competitive advantage, and we can pay attention to it. Others, this one, why it's not the fault of the ministry. The cost of production was because of other factors that you know about, the petroleum, the forest, and whatever. Is not on the desk of the ministry to control this. I think so.
The report made some recommendations to address food security in the country, including the proposal to establish a trust fund for farmers.
Our recommendation, one of them is that we should pay attention, whatever strategy that you bring about this depopulating cutlass and hoes, it will attract the youth from coming to come into the agri space. And then we should set up a trust fund, whatever. You have to put your money where your mouth is.
The Minister of State for Agriculture promises that the government will consider the recommendations and share some interventions by the government to improve food production.
As part of the strategy of the ministry to tackle the food price inflation, our pledge and promise to Nigerians is that we will ramp up production back to back, which means as the rainy season is finishing, we are moving into the dry season and we are preparing.
After the meeting, the minister leads the launch of the report, which aims to make food production better and food accessible for all.
Joining us to discuss the Nigerian government's establishment of a trust fund for farmers is the President, National Ginger Association of Nigeria, Garin Madaki. You're welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much, Joke, for having me.
Right, so how do you think the government initiatives have impacted your farming business so far?
Well, I would want to start by saying, for my value chain, they have targeted the very lower end of the production sector. They're saying the most affected. It's a nicer way of saying peasant farmers are the ones that are the most affected. So they have come up with policies, they have given them inputs, given them fertilizers, and told them to farm other things other than ginger. They should farm rice, farm maize, farm other things so that they don't go hungry while they investigate the disease that is affecting ginger. So that segment, I'm talking less than 0.1 hectare of a farm. But anybody over 0.2 hectare and above has not seen anything from the government at all.
So what challenges do you face in accessing credit inputs or even the markets?
Well, yes. Now, when you speak about access to funding, there are various segments of the market. When you look at the most vulnerable, using government language, those ones need intervention funds. And I know the ministry has set up a National Agricultural Fund, and they are trying to do their best. But for farmers like myself and those in my class of farming, or those who have over a hectare and above up to 50 hectares, we are left to our own means to raise the funding by ourselves. How we do that, government does not know.
And how do you see Nigeria's food, security evolving in the next 5 years?
Well, I can start by talking about things like agricultural investment, where you have to involve the federal government and the state government and private sector. Will make a conscious effort to invest in agriculture. We're looking at technological advancement. You understand, adoption of technology, such as precision farming, mechanization. That's very important. It reduces cost. Then you look at things like public climate change. We take that thing for granted, but look at this year alone. Look at the way the rains have gone further than ever experienced before. You need to have checks when such things happen. How do you hedge against the impact of excess rainfall from what you are used to? How do you hedge against that? And then the infrastructure development has to be done. You have to improve the roads to the farms. You have to look at storage facilities. A lot of farmers, the storage is poor, and it brings about effect of aflatoxin or cratoxin because the stores don't have windows, they're not aerated. So as a result, there are always problems. You put food there, it goes bad. It's a problem for local consumption, it's a problem for international market. So we need investment in adequate infrastructure development like storage. Then population growth. Nigeria has been steadily popular. The growth of our population has been growing. And as we grow, we need more money for food. Now, government has to put that in focus and plan towards ensuring that the production meets that growth. And then we'll probably talk about things like security issues. Well, they are trying their best now, and we're hoping in the next 4 or 5 years, what it is today, we pray to be better. That way more people will go back to the farm, and then we can, things will be a lot different then.
Right, and a lot of the conversations have been around, what needs to be done, what hasn't been done, what the future should be like. Are there any positives that we can take away from the innovations and policies that the government is, pushing out at this moment that have actually affected, your farms and, your colleagues in a positive way?
On paper, what government sets out to do beginning of the year, towards the end of the year, it looks very interesting. They talk about mechanization, talk about the Bola Tinubu initiative on food security and economic development, ramp up food production. They talk about things like that. But the truth is this, the funds are even budgeted for, but and the funds actually released. And when it's released, the percentage that benefit are so negligible. I'm telling you, you can actually count them on your finger. So if I were one of those people who benefited, I would say yes. But on a general note, I'm talking about like 80%. No, it hasn't. That's the truth. So this is who you are speaking to. 1 or 2 people I know have benefited, but they're so inconsequential that I can't count them on this finger. That's the truth.
Right. President, National Ginger Association of Nigeria, Garin Madaki, thank you again for speaking to us on Africa 54.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. In Tanzania, a growing number of people are falling victim to predatory loans made through mobile phones. When borrowers struggle to repay the loans, they face a variety of threats and penalties. Ronald Sanyo has this report from Dodoma, Tanzania.
So you're welcome. This is person.
Some Tanzanians are being convinced to take quick, no-hassle loans by eye-catching advertisements, but many are finding the promise of quick money carries unseen risks. Rashid Mwenda is one of them.
So once the rumors in the street, Rashid has taken a loan. Rashid has taken a loan. So some other people, they went to my employee. So they tell him, this guy, we owe them. We need their money. So they chased me away because I'm a big debtor. So that's the problem. It's a little hard. It's about 5 years ago, till this moment, I didn't recover.
An overwhelming number of those caught in this trap are young people with limited income struggling to make ends meet. Taxi driver Fakih Suberi says young people are easily lured by advertisements on their phones promoting loans claiming to be quick to get and easy to pay off.
The majority of college students are victims of loans. Some of them have mortgage certificates because of loans, not just online. Now they come to the streets to take loans, and then they mortgage their school certificates and take loans.
The situation has drawn the attention of the government, which has intervened by suspending all online lending until further notice. Eric Makunde, who works for Uhuma Financial Services, a local loan company, explains.
It is true. Nowadays, some customers blame loan companies. Suspicion has increased and has become common because the number of loan companies is increasing, especially online lenders. Why is that? Because anybody who has a national ID number can receive loans without having conditions.
The Central Bank of Tanzania, which oversees small financial services, says it has begun taking measures to monitor loan providers and will revoke the licenses of those found to be violating the regulation.
These individuals have been taken to court. This campaign is ongoing nationwide, and we want people to understand that through our coordinated efforts, we are committed to putting an end to this issue.
The Central Bank of Tanzania says the customers must be treated fairly and transparently under its new financial regulations. The bank is also reminding people to take the time to carefully review and understand any loan agreement before signing it and to make sure the lender has a valid license from the bank. For Ronald Sonyo, Dodoma, Tanzania, Vincent Makori, VOA News.
Nigerian doctors in South Africa are partnering with South African nurses to highlight disparities between public and private healthcare, as facilities are often overcrowded, resulting in long wait times and inadequate patient care. Here's more in this report by our correspondent, Innocent Samosa.
In an effort to address the pressing healthcare disparities in South Africa, the Nigerian Doctors Forum, in collaboration with Nigerian and South African nurses, recently organized a medical outreach in Johannesburg.
It's an annual program, but apart from the annual program, we still go to different locations. We go to different locations in South Africa here. We go to different provinces. We also engage with different associations in South Africa.
Now in its 12th year, the president of the Nigerian Doctors Forum, South Africa, Dr. Ugu Emeka, says the journey has not been without challenges.
Challenges we have, of course, we are foreigners, we remain foreigners in South Africa, and the issue of foreign nationals vis-a-vis the locals, which we're trying to push so that we integrate ourselves as much we can. In all honesty, we've tried to do this at Maponya Mall, the biggest mall in Soweto, if not in Johannesburg. We wanted to go there and give free medical services to as many South Africans, as many other nationals that are there, but we are restricted because of laws.
Channels Television spoke to several individuals who received assistance during the outreach.
Trying to get medication here in South Africa is a bit difficult for some people who can afford, because the economy has been a bit difficult lately.
I feel so happy. People here, they were so helpful. I came feeling some pains and I explained to them, and they gave me all the medications for the complaints that I had.
We look forward to seeing more initiatives that promote health equity, not only in South Africa, but on the continent as a whole. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samos, Channels Television News.
Zimbabwe's heavy reliance on coal-based energy is adversely affecting the health of families in coal mining regions who continue to be exposed to dirty air from coal burning. Columbus Mavunga visited the Hangwe thermal power station, about 700 kilometers from Harare and the surrounding area, where residents have complained about the air pollution.
32-year-old Tinashe Raphael Matika says he's worried about the emissions from Hwange Thermal Power Station, which burns coal to generate energy. Matika says as the coal burns, dark smoke drifts over his home less than a kilometer away, creating health hazards and risks to farming.
The ash now poses a threat not just to the human beings, the people around, also to the vegetation. It is now harder to conduct subsistence farming. The law does not mandate that these companies test the exposure of community members to the pollutants, but rather only the labor aspect is covered by the Pneumoconiosis Act.
Matsika was referring to a law that mandates that companies pay for pneumoconiosis tests, but only for its employees. Pneumoconiosis is a lung disease that is caused by breathing in dust and manifests in coughing and inflammation, doctors say. And continued exposure to the dust can lead to cancer. The Zimbabwe government has yet to respond to the concerns of the communities affected by the coal-burning energy power stations. An advocacy group known as the Greater Hwange Residents Trust has since petitioned the government to amend a 1970s law and ensure the affected people like Matika are helped.
The community of Hwange, the Ngagula community especially, is faced by air pollution, and we want people to be tested for pneumoconiosis for free and the community's relocation to a safer place with less pollution.
As the government has not responded to the petition, Tobokile Shoko, monitoring officer at the Center for Natural Resource Governance, says a solution lies in moving to clean energy.
I think we should also try and introduce the issue of solar, or of using solar here in Hwange.
The Zimbabwe Electricity Supply Authority says ferrochrome mines are installing hydropower stations to produce between 350 and 400 megawatts of electricity for their use and possibly selling in surplus to the national grid. Sidin Gatam, ZESA's executive chairperson, added that 31,000 farms in the country will have solar power installed as part of efforts to move to clean energy and reduce pressure on the grid. Gata has spoken highly of the coming solar project on farms.
They use only 30, 35, at most 40% of the time they use electricity, mostly for irrigation. Now with PV solar, the energy is coming every day for 10 hours or so. So they have an opportunity to capture this energy and sell it back to ZESA.
That would result in Zimbabwe less relying on thermal energy and reduce length power cuts which last as long as 18 hours in some areas. Columbus Mavunga, VOA News, Hwange, Zimbabwe.
Farmers in Cameroon are facing a rise in the theft of their cocoa produce. At the Mbam Etikim region, the farmers are raising the alarm and calling on authorities to take action as rising cocoa prices driven by a global shortage have led to a surge in theft.
In the village of Ntui, farmers harvesting cocoa beans at a local plantation are placing amulets on trees, hoping to cast a spell on thieves trying to steal their produce and drive them away from their farm. Cocoa producer Akolo Nogo Emmanuel says the recent spike in theft is unprecedented, claiming local police are not doing enough to deter would-be criminals. Emmanuel says he's never seen anything like it.
Theft has become so recurrent, we've never seen anything like it before.
It's really very serious to the point where you're being robbed night and day. We're experiencing losses, and that's creating problems in terms of paying the workers in the fields.
Farmer Emmanuel also complains of a problem with the police when the thieves are caught.
We have a problem with the police. For example, when we catch thieves and take them to the police, after a day or two, they end up back on the streets because you see the same person again in the village. That's discouraging.
The cocoa farmer now calls on fellow producers to not give up in protecting their crops. According to local reports, the surge in prices in Cameroon stems from adverse weather conditions and plant diseases at plantations in cocoa-growing powerhouses such as Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. Meanwhile, crops in the country have reportedly tripled over the past year as buyers look to its deregulated economy to meet growing global demand.
A Kenyan entrepreneur is helping people in wheelchairs get around in a country that is hard for people with disabilities to navigate. Through his company Ace Mobility, users can hail cars and drivers equipped to accommodate disabled passengers. Victoria Munga reports from Nairobi.
The hustle and bustle of Kenya's public transportation is escalating as the population grows, but this sector is usually unforgiving for persons with disabilities. Brian Ndiritu is a corporate communications graduate who was born disabled. He says his mobility challenges complicate access to public buses and cabs.
It takes a lot of time to onboard, alight. So, you see, there's the whole planning. Sometimes drivers will just say, we won't carry you because, you are a burden.
A burden that Kenyan startup S Mobility is helping to lift through the vehicles that are designed to accommodate disabled passengers. The cars are fitted with a ramp that lifts wheelchairs by remote control. The drivers are also trained as caregivers for passengers with special needs, like Ndiritu.
I know that my wheelchair is safe because I'm not coming off my wheelchair. My wheelchair is safe, the travel is safe, the driver is conscious that I'm a person with disability. So there are some discussions I might not be comfortable with, maybe the cause of my disability, my private life.
Users are linked to drivers through a mobile app for $1 a kilometer. At least 500 people have downloaded the app, according to co-founder Daniel Kamau. He explains that their fleet of 15 cars are modified to include swivel seats that can be lowered to the ground, especially for the elderly when boarding the vehicles.
We're seeing a lot of interest from the conferences and summit industries. We're looking at more interest within the entertainment industry. We're also seeing normal and day-to-day commute, and also from the employer's point of view, who are now in a push to serve and employ more people with reduced mobilities.
Kenya's 2003 Persons with Disabilities Act prohibits the denial of services, education and job opportunities to people dealing with handicaps. But Kenya's National Council for Persons with Disabilities say improper infrastructure still prevents their full inclusion in society. Transportation experts say insufficient funding has slowed down the adoption of most mobility solutions in Africa. S Mobility was invited to pitch its business to investors at a summit in October hosted by the VUCA Group.
We're matching those types of projects with the funding, whether it's venture capital, banks, DFIs, and so on and so forth, matching them with entities that have the funding to be able to invest into these solutions so that they can get off the ground and be scaled.
Authorities say technologies like S Mobility can help the millions of Kenyans with disabilities live easier lives. Victoria Amunga, VOA News, Nairobi.
Well, that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.